Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are starting, rolling, and moving forward. Big news. The Kawasaki, the only running bike, well, from last video, the one that started on its own, I rode it, I sold it the following morning. Sold it for $1,000. I counted with shipping, I was like $250 rounding up into that bike. So essentially, I got 4 times my investment on that bike. But now I want to take a closer, better look at the other bikes that I purchased. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what to expect, but I wanna say thank you for joining. Welcome. Let's get this party started. So I am not sure why, but I've been almost more inclined to get this one started first, maybe because, you know, it's the one that's kind of not smushed. Like this one is smushed between that bike. Those are kind of up there, so this is the one that kind of pops. Who knows, maybe it's the color. Anyways, this was a theft recovery, and as you guys can see, this whole cylinder is all busted. There is absolutely no key in there. So I did order a new one. It will actually have the cylinder lock and I believe the gas tank. Gas tank shouldn't be difficult to remove because you just take out these bolts and it should come off. And then I need to figure out this cover. So this is the stator cover, and it has a crack here. Honestly, I don't know if it has oil in it or not, but the fact that it's dripping or was dripping a little bit, I don't think I want to start this bike without replacing this and then pouring some fresh oil in it. I don't know what I will actually end up doing with this one, although this doesn't seem like a big issue, but I believe it might be a one piece. No, so it's just left side. So I haven't priced that out, and this crack, and I don't know how much they're selling for retail, but it's a 650. It's a, you know, pretty solid sports bike. I might retail it. If not, I still want this replaced just so that I could confirm the engine runs. This is why I'm kind of buying the more important parts first for it. So this one I think is the furthest along from all of them. This one I have decided I am going to part out. I will not try to connect the tank or anything for the reason why I wanted to is so that I could maybe ride it, but I rode the 1985 Kawasaki and I could only imagine that they will be almost the same in feeling, so I'm over it. This one though, good news, the seat comes off like this and it has a good battery, and it actually has a really fancy battery. And when you push that, it shows us that it's full. And I found out because I threw it on a trickle charger through here and it lit up green. And I was like, wait, something seems off. Maybe it's not connected or something. Pull that off, saw a fancy battery, push that, what you guys saw, and it works. And then came here. And you guys hear that? It makes noise. But that also shows that that's totally busted. So I don't know the true miles. Maybe once I actually start it, but typically that should start lighting up, especially that, you know, when we do the turn signal and whatnot, it works. So this bike has good battery, and I'm assuming when I try to crank it over, it will probably start on its own. But I haven't done that yet because I want to lift it. I have a motorcycle jack lift. I believe, yeah, this one may be very minor oil leak as well. And when they were loading it onto the trailer, I did see coolant dripping. Obviously, when I started, that's not going to be a big issue because it's not going to overheat. But I do want to check for oil, and I don't want to pour in oil if it has a crack and it all pours out. So this one I will not start. This one will probably be second on the list. And again, if it sounds great and there's no major mechanical stuff underneath, then this one I will most likely try to retail because I am $1,100 into it. I don't know how hard it would be to find this carbon fiber looking stuff to replace it, or headlight. Haven't priced pretty much anything for these bikes except the green one. Yeah, but obviously somebody put a lot of money into this bike, so this is the one I am more interested in fixing and retailing. And this one, that one is also theft recovery. And I have a whole bunch of keys and not a single darn one works. The only one I think that worked was this one, which is why I kind of put it like this, like maybe not even this one. One of these keys worked and I was able to open the fuel door, and then I thought, okay, maybe this is the same key that would work in the ignition, and obviously it did not. See, and this one doesn't even go in. Oh, there we go. There we go. So see, this one works. We have fuel in there. I see it splashing around. But same thing. I could get an ignition for this one. Yeah, see, it doesn't even go all the way. And I don't know if the ignition is busted or what. Maybe like when I'll have time, kind of sit on it and see if I could get one of these keys in there to work. But this one is on pause. Most likely I'll start parting that one out and get this one sorted first. We are starting this video in the evening for myself. The new parts, honestly, they won't be here soon, and none of these are pressing projects. But as I kind of start making progress, I will be taking more and more videos. And who knows, maybe this will be 2, 3-part, 4-part video series of what's happening with all these bikes. I am excited because on all 5 motorcycles, I spent roughly $2,500 plus, you know, my time. I wasted a day to pick them up, and I spent, say, $150 in fuel. So what, $2,650 in them, say $2,700 to round up. And first bike is sold for $1,000, so I'm a third way there. I don't think I'll lose any money on all of these bikes. I'll actually end up maybe doubling or tripling my profit if everything goes as planned. But hands will be busy for a while, for the next few weeks, I would assume, at the very least. So here, I was thinking, let me start at least something tonight. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, everything looks fine. I looked from that side, looked here, everything looks fine. Even here, like there's no wetness or anything here. Filter seems fine. But then I looked here, it doesn't look like we have any oil. And then leaned the bike over, still nothing. And then, oh yeah, check that out, guys. That's a crack in what looks like the oil pan, similar to an oil pan. So I'm very curious if the engine will actually be good. I do want to see how much a new oil pan is for this bike, and then, yeah, and then we could try that, hoping that maybe once it happened, the bike just, I don't know, stopped. I have no idea. Or worst case scenario, a guy was riding it, cracked the bottom and kept riding it, oil went out and engine is totally screwed. So that's what's happening with that one. And unfortunately, exact same story with this one. But this one is a little bit more obvious. Right there, and then right there. So both of these bikes will need, I guess in car terms, oil pans, gaskets, and then this one will need the cover. So honestly, I will take the risk and buy the needed parts for both of these bikes. Shows my battery's about to die. If not, I'll part them out, and worst case, I think I'll be what, $200-300 out from this experiment, because I will also need oil for both bikes. But honestly, I think it'll be worth it. No risk, no reward. Worst case scenario, the profits I made on the Kawasaki I sold, they'll just cover my experiments with these bikes. But obviously, if the risk will outweigh, or not outweigh, what am I trying to say? If the risk will pay off, then it will pay off a lot, because the Gixxer engine, like average for sale for a used engine is $1,500. I don't know how much it is for the 650. I would assume, say $1,000 will be a very comfortable guess. So spending, you know, $100 to return $1,000 on a good working engine, I think it's worth it. But again, now that I'm thinking out loud, I am going to reach out. You guys drop a comment. What do you think I'm going to reach out to? Yes, it will be Nick. I will send him a Snapchat, see what he thinks. I mean, if he tells me, look, you're dumb and it's pointless, then I probably won't do it. And who knows? Then it'll just be straight up part out for 2 bikes. And then we have the weak 250 Ninja. But again, originally when I bought these bikes, I was not expecting for any of them to work or run. So obviously one bike running and already sold is a big plus. And when I bid on them, I was anticipating that, hey, these will be most likely part outs rather than getting fixed. So we are A-okay here, but whew, always an adventure, always an adventure. But again, no risk, no reward.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
So I reached out to Nick. He did respond and he told me I should be okay to try to turn it over with no oil. Obviously the engine isn't going to run. Somehow in my head it doesn't make sense. But doing some research, there's people that have actually done it. And this way essentially you'll know the internals, if they're good or not. I looked at the Gixxer pan. It is $100 used. New is 200 bucks. There's no point in buying new. So do I want to spend 100 bucks? I was hoping it'd be like $30, $40, then I probably would. But that's not why I guess I am recording again. I am recording because I have a whole bunch of keys here and I was messing with them and none of them fit. None of them. 2 keys open the fuel tank. None go in here. So started to poke around and I found this make shift believe key system. And as you guys can see, look at that. It lights up with my battery connected to the drum box. Highly doubt that it will do anything. I'll probably need 2 hands. I do not hear the pump, fuel pump, when doing this. It is in neutral. Let me try. Oh. Well, that literally started half a turn. That was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Okay, well, oh, look at that. I let it go and it died. So it looks like I could probably use a new ignition for this one. Let's try it again. Look at that. Literally half a turn and she's ready to go. So the bike that I wasn't really planning on working on, hey, there it is. Listen to that. This is obviously a cold start. It purrs. And then it kind of chokes when I give it gas. Okay, so we know the engine on this one is good. I'll kind of leave that there. Don't know if this is a carbureted bike. I highly doubt that it is because it's a newer one. It's a Ninja. I think they are all fuel injected. Why it kind of bogs down, I don't know. But the engine runs, so I'm assuming compression, everything else will be good. So worst case scenario, I can port it out and do I guess a green bill of sale on the engine. But honestly, if it's a theft recovery and this is the only damage that I see, this will be a beginner's bike for anyone. It's nothing fancy. It's obviously a very light bike, very easy to ride, very easy to learn on. 400 bucks in it as it sits, and I bought new ignition cylinder key and everything for that one. I think it was like 50 bucks, so probably well worth it to buy it for this one. It will replace the ignition and the fuel, and then possibly new battery. Get a title for it because it's a bill of sale bike because it came out of Washington. So I could technically be, what, 700 bucks into it? I'll make more money parting it out, but it might be worth just fixing it, less work. I don't know. Especially if the 2 behind me will need to be parted out, then I'd rather, you know, focus on those, part them out, and then get this one retail ready. But that's a good sign. And I think for tonight, from my end, this is it.
The next day.
Welcome back to another day.
What Noah said. Welcome back, guys. Well, you are just continuously watching this video, but we are going to do a compression test. As unnatural as it seems, but obviously if the engine is a goner, I don't want to put money into it. So we took the side covers off, the seat is off. Now we are working on getting this tank up. Probably might have to, well, I think it comes up this way actually. So I might need to take off this one and then lift it up, and essentially the goal is to get to the spark plugs and ignition coils so that we have access to the cylinders and see what the compression looks like.
Look, we need to cut that off.
No, we're not gonna cut it off because this is just a cover. Oh, look at that. Okay, I'm going to use two hands so I don't drop anything.
I can hold the camera.
I'm gonna hold the camera. Beautiful. Is there something here that we could use as a prop? Okay. Airbox is off. Just disconnected the electrical connectors, and I think these, just, yeah, pull up. They're not held down by screws like a car typically would. Honestly, I'll probably do them one by one. I don't know what size plugs are in here, so I'll grab a few sockets, get the first one out, and we're gonna crank it over for the very first time, guys. Okay, cylinder 1 or 4, I don't know. I think it's in neutral because we rolled it in here. All right, kid, are you ready?
Mm-hmm. Is it gonna be loud?
I have no idea. Let's give it a try. Guys, look at that, 90. That's not terrible. We are ready for cylinder number 2. Cylinder number 3, here we go. Beautiful, very consistent. Last and final cylinder, here we go. I would have to say we are looking very, very good. So against my knowledge, and I'm not saying my knowledge is vast or something crazy, this worked. So I'm going to put everything back together. Spark plugs actually look fine. They, I mean, a little bit dirty at the bottom, but there's no oil, so more or less it's like a burnt off bottom, but it's not terrible, so it's not white, it's just black. It wouldn't hurt to get new plugs, but obviously I don't know how the engine runs, but we are moving forward. I will be buying a new oil pan, new oil, so we'll do a fresh oil. And this bike might actually go retail, which is exciting. So once it's good mechanically, then I will have to look at a new headlight, cluster, or whatever else. It'll probably be sold with not actual miles because I don't know, unless I could find a Carfax report with, you know, recent maintenance, but I don't think Carfax does motorcycles. But we are moving forward. Okay, done looking at this one. I put everything back together. The new ignition stuff came in. I bought it for this bike, but I'm hoping and thinking it'll work for this one because I think this one is further along. So I just took the old one out. I don't know, I don't think I'll be installing it just yet because I need to get to the wiring, which is probably underneath the tank. So I'll have to take off these screws, lift it up, or even just maybe take off this side cover to get to this connector. But I think I'll kind of put this bike as a priority because with new key, new battery, which I still need to get, I could try to ride it, and if it runs great mechanically, then I could move forward with getting a title for it and getting this thing sold. Giving you guys little bits and pieces because obviously this is not a how-to video, but from what I can see, this is a totally different connector. So let me double check again. Yes, so this is the one I actually need for this bike, which is not a big issue. I will order a battery and get a new ignition. So thankfully I didn't install it, and there goes the bottom part of that. So it looks like that one will still have to stay with that one, which is okay. But this one is nearly ready.
Several days later.
In this box we have a new battery, and inside Noah went to grab, we have the new ignition. So replacing the battery, I left all of this stuff here. Hopefully I did not forget how to do it, how to put it back together. Here's our connector for the ignition. Get everything sorted, and honestly I think I will try to ride it for the first time and see how well it runs.
I'm back.
You are back, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And this is the longer connector that we need. So let me get started on that, get some progress going, and we'll have to shuffle a whole bunch of these bikes out because obviously I have so many now. Noah is cleaning the bike, and I just finished putting battery on. I had another trickle charger set up. With every battery, especially if I get this far, I definitely want to install a trickle charger everywhere I can, just because they're so darn useful and very inexpensive. So let me put this back together, slowly working through it. Okay. Everything I think is installed. Everything has been put back together. It is in neutral. Look at that, half a turn, and she purrs. So I will let it actually run right now. I need to move that part's bike out of the way, this one out of the way, and get this bike out so I could actually take it down the street, see how well it runs. If it shifts good, no issues, everything works, then I will proceed to get a title for it, and we are going to retail this bike. Alrighty, let's rock and roll. So something is off with the tech gauge. Fuel just went up, but the tech gauge ain't really working. There we go. Little Ninja 250. Ah, there's our gauge. Welcome back. Welcome to the chat. I mean, honestly, for what it is, it's not bad. I just don't like that it's a very, very quiet bike. I struggle with any motorcycles that are very quiet, because I am a strong believer that loud pipes save lives. But I'm almost surprised that, you know, like right now I'm almost at 5,000 RPM. This seems, you know, obviously high. Because if you think about cars, you'd be pushing it, and this thing at 5,000 is like barely moving. And it's moving, but look, 4,500, I'm doing nearly 40 miles per hour. You guys can see that. And I am in 5th gear, so this thing, you know, goes through all gears. I don't feel any grinding, any weird feeling of anything. Like very kind of easy to throw it around. Let's give it some more throttle. Yeah, it definitely kind of opens up after 5,000 RPM, especially after 6,000 actually. It moves. I'm going to get back out on the main road, and then I'll try it again. It seems like it wakes up past 5,500, 6,000 RPM. Second gear. Okay, let's open it up. Oh yeah, race bike. Yeah, this thing definitely opens up at the high RPMs. Not too bad for a 250. Kind of stay at that higher RPM range. But for what it is, man, this thing will go quick. I was just telling Dina, I sent out the title paperwork for it. So within 2-3 weeks, this bike will be ready to go. I don't think I'll replace plastics for it, because, well, they're like $400, not that they're expensive, but I figured someone who's gonna buy it will probably buy it as a first bike or like a commuter, and if they want to replace it, they can. I'll probably list it for like, I don't know, $1,500. Yeah, it definitely picks up after 5,000. Kind of nice, to be honest, for a little bike like this. I am hoping I got some footage out of the GoPro. So we have turn signals that I'll need to get for this thing on both sides. That I will not fix. All of this I will not fix. Honestly, I'm kind of shooting for maybe someone who's looking for like a beginner bike and that they won't mind the scuffs and whatnot, just something they could learn on. Or I'll see, maybe I will find some plastics. If I could find blue plastic, maybe I'll get it. Because the bike, when I purchased it, I think I'm like, with everything as it sits right now, maybe $500 into it. Which I would say, honestly, it's very cheap. Especially like if I were to personally be looking for a commuter bike for 500 bucks, like, honestly, I don't think you could beat it. The other thing, I'll need to replace this because I did not. I wanted to make sure it's good mechanically before I do that. But the new cylinder is in. This one I would say is more or less done. Now with this one, I think I will actually move it right here because this one unfortunately will be the kind of last one that I will be working on. Just because I need to do a compression test on it, I have to pull stuff apart again and order the bottom oil pan if compression checks out.
Several days later.
2 days ago, I started to work on this bike, trying to replace the oil pan. And guys, I am struggling. So for starters, had to remove the side fairing. The other one was broken. I had to disconnect this upper radiator hose. I lost a lot of coolant, and then I like kind of gave up because it kept coming out and out and out and out and out. I was like, whatever, I'll just try to save what I can. And then I had to loosen the headers. I didn't take them off completely, but as you guys can see right here, they are loose. So I got that far. Started to loosen all the bolts, and I got all of them but one. Let me get in here. This is the last one that I cannot take out. Well, I took it out, but then it's resting against this, I guess, like frame piece. And I've been looking at it, trying to figure out, what do I do with this? And honestly, I'm kind of stumped from online research, I guess. This is like a exhaust bracket for a factory exhaust. Obviously, this bike doesn't have it. Our issue is with that one right here, this one, because the bolt right there touches it and it doesn't have enough clearance to drop. And that is more or less, hey look, mess with it a little bit and it's starting to drip again. My goodness, that is so much coolant. Okay, I'll let it do that. But even after I take this out, there's a bracket that this bolt essentially goes into. I apologize, not the best view. And the oil pan essentially kind of like slides into it from underneath, and then you have, I think, 2 or 3 bolts that hold it. So it's almost like a bracket, but not really a bracket, but it kind of is. The other thing I had to do was take off the clutch cable in order to get to this bolt right here and have freedom to loosen it. But what people are recommending, if you have an aftermarket exhaust, then cut off that bracket right there and don't struggle with it. But I am still trying to look at everything and cover my bases just so that I don't cut off something I might potentially need down the road. But I suppose what I'm trying to say is this bike is kicking my rear. I did not expect an oil pan to be this darn difficult. Like, headers loosened, radiator more or less taken off, all the 3 mounting brackets and moved to the side. That's a lot. That's a lot more than I thought. But obviously I need to get it done because I already did a compression test. I have a new oil pan and etc, etc. So I don't know how long this will take me. It probably took me an hour to get to this point, maybe even more. And obviously I'm not even done yet. So I am not excited for the reverse process. I'm hoping it will go easier, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. So today's a new day. It's early morning. My goal is to get this bike done, put back together, start it, see how it actually sounds with oil, and if it sounds fine, take it down the street, and if it's mechanically sound, then probably work on getting a new cluster, see if I could get that headlight mounted that I do have for it, and more or less get it retail ready. I did kind of wing it, and I did send out paperwork for a new title because this was purchased out of Washington. It's a bill of sale. So again, almost like putting all of my eggs into one basket, but I'm going off of that compression is good. But I guess worst case scenario, if the engine is no good, then I will part it out and minus $150 for the new title. But mentally, wish me luck as you're watching this, because this one isn't that much fun.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
I think I am ready for moment of truth on the bike. I poured coolant in. Obviously, without the gauge really working, I don't know if I'll be able to know the temperature of the engine. And it seems like coolant is leaking from this hose. I don't know if I damaged something by moving the radiator around, or if it's necessarily even an issue still. But guys, here we go. It has oil, it has coolant. Wish me luck. Okay. Well, it runs. So we still don't see mileage, but tech doesn't work. Nope, nothing works. But the engine runs, sounds healthy. I don't know if you guys saw that drip. It's coming from this radiator hose. So I don't know if maybe when I was moving it around, it kind of went into the net. I have no idea. Well, I am not going to take it out on a ride. You guys did hear the bike run. Sounds healthy. I'll say this is another winner. I almost want to do my due diligence in the sense of the bike has a lot of carbon fiber pieces, and I believe those are genuine carbon fiber pieces. They're like $600-700 for the whole fairing kit. I don't know if I want to put that much money into the bike. Plus, if the coolant is leaking, that's, you know, potentially another issue. I'm just... Okay, so I need the cluster. I don't know what the miles are. I need the cluster. I need possibly a headlight because I have that one, but I think the tabs are broken. I need both fairings. Well, I have the right side, but obviously I either need the left side carbon fiber, which as far as I know, they only sell them in a complete kit, or I need two fronts, left and right, so like OEM blue color. But then that might look a little bit weird where more or less the rest of the bike is carbon fiber. And I don't know what else it will need at that point. So I just want to do my due diligence and see what the cost is versus return. So for example, if all in, I'll end up being $2,000 into the bike and I could sell it for $3.5, so $1,000 profit. It's well worth it to port it out at this point. Sell the engine itself. It's a good running engine for $1,500. I don't know how much the exhaust is. So technically, just the engine itself will cover the bike, and then everything else, aftermarket and original stuff that it has, will essentially be profit on that bike. So I just want to do the numbers and see what's worthwhile. I guess what will yield a larger return and time invested. But I'm going to wrap it up. Part 2 of this video. I don't know, honestly, if I'll do a third part, just because The old Honda, that's a part out. I'm not going to start running it. Yamaha, or not Yamaha, the Suzuki Gixxer you guys just saw and we went through it. And green Kawasaki, I need to do a compression test, and it has the oil pan issue also. And honestly, I'm almost afraid to go down that road again. This took hours. This is not something I do every day, so obviously my time isn't very efficient in it. And I don't know what, I guess, content to make with that. So I think for now, I am going to say goodbye. If you guys like this style of video, if you think these purchases were great, I always ask for comments. I always appreciate comments. I appreciate your time watching this video, and hopefully I'll see you guys in another one.